Welcome to the Grant Proposal Writing video, Getting from Ideas to Reality. Proposal evaluators look at the following criteria when reviewing and assigning a score to your project. Objectives. Will the project contribute to the social, economic, and/or community development of the applicant's home country? Or, for individual projects, the professional development of the alumnus or alumna. Constituency. Is there demonstrated need among the target group? Will the project benefit people from differing ethnic, religious, social, professional, and/or age groups? Will it benefit the alumni community? Feasibility. Is the project well thought out? Is the timeline realistic? Has a well-researched and accurate budget been submitted? Does the project have partnerships or cost share? Relevant letters of support? Are potential risks, challenges, and obstacles addressed? Results. How big of an impact will the project make on the community it aims to serve? Can the results be measured in qualitative as well as quantitative terms? How will these results be shared with others? Components of a grant proposal. The main components which you will submit through the online application include a project description. This is the narrative or written description of your project. While it is true that this portion is vitally important to a grant proposal, there are other components that are equally as important and require attention and planning, including your project timeline, the social media plan and timeline, as well as your budget. You will also upload supporting documents through the online application portal, including letters of support from project partners, resumes or CVs of key project team members and trainers, and a risk management plan. Pro tip number 1, start early. Quality grant proposals require time to form a team, gather information, get buy-in from your local community and organizations you might like to partner with, research prices, develop a detailed budget, and gather supporting documents. In this video, we will look at each of these components individually, except for the budget. There is a separate grant budget video available for you to view. The narrative description of your project proposal will provide detailed information about your project plans, need for this project, your motivation and experience, the target audience and project beneficiaries, project partners, contributors, and your team, measuring impact and results, project continuation and sustainability, and project visibility. One of the most important parts of your narrative description is your project summary. This is a concise but thorough description of your project. It's like a 1-minute elevator speech or a sales pitch in writing. This well-crafted summary should give someone unfamiliar with your project a solid understanding. You will have a 200-word limit to explain the who, what, when, where, why, how much, and how many of your project, which is pro tip number 2. At any point throughout your application that you are describing your project, be sure that you are answering the 5 W's and the H of a successful proposal. Addressing these questions doesn't end with the project summary. In your proposal, you will provide an explanation of need and motivation. Your proposal should thoroughly explain the need for this project in your local community and/or among the target beneficiaries. It should also address what, if anything, has already been done in your community around this issue and how your project would integrate lessons learned or new innovations. Your proposal should also explain your experience and motivation. Your previous experience with the issue or project implementation in general, and why this project. Why are you uniquely suited to planning and implementing a project of this type? What encouraged your interest in this project? Explain why this project is important to you and how, if applicable. Your exchange year or involvement with the alumni community in your country inspired this project. Please note that proposals based on previously funded grant projects should demonstrate an expansion in scale, include significantly more cost share, and/or incorporate new partners, beneficiaries, or project elements. It is critical to demonstrate growth if you are applying for grant funding for a previously funded project. Project participants and beneficiaries. Your proposal should thoroughly address who are the direct beneficiaries or participants and who are the indirect beneficiaries. Direct beneficiaries are the active participants in your project, whereas indirect beneficiaries gain something from your project through a secondary means. For example, if you educate 20 participants about voting rights and election transparency, how many people will you then encourage them to go and spread this knowledge to? The people your participants go on to teach or impact are the indirect beneficiaries. This is known as the multiplier effect. Why did you choose this target group? How will they be recruited and selected? For example, will you recruit on social media, at a school, or even several schools? How many participants do you plan to have, and how will you select them if there is more interest in your project than you anticipate? How many people will participate or be directly impacted? Please note that determining your number of participants or beneficiaries before submitting your proposal is critical. Otherwise, you likely will not be able to develop an accurate budget. How many people will be indirectly impacted? Project partners, contributors, and your team. Your proposal should thoroughly address who is on your project team. Have you agreed on time commitments and responsibilities? Who are your confirmed project partners? What organizations, entities, or people have confirmed they will collaborate, contribute, or participate in the project? If your project will have expert speakers or trainers, please describe how they are qualified. Pro tip number 3. Partnerships should be established before submitting a proposal. Stating in your proposal that you plan to approach a person or organization for project support or partnership will not strengthen your application or contribute to your proposal's evaluation score. A strong proposal comes with letters of support which detail and demonstrate partner commitment. Detailed project plans. Your proposal should thoroughly address what exactly you plan to do and how you plan to do it. That includes the design, format, or main components of your project. For example, is your project a workshop, a seminar, a training, an awareness session, or a cleanup event? Over how many days and hours will these events be organized? When and where will your activities take place? If your project is in person, where is your project venue? In what city? What neighborhood? Why was this location chosen? How will participants get there? Is this location accessible to all? If your project is virtual, What platforms will you use to implement the project? How will you hold planning sessions with your team? Impact, results, and project sustainability. Your proposal should thoroughly address the contribution and benefit for your community, the anticipated short and long-term results, your plans to quantifiably measure impact and results, as well as how this data will be collected, and your plans to sustain the project after the grant period. Preparing and submitting a detailed project timeline, which you will enter into a table in the online application, is crucial. Your detailed timeline should include all tasks and activities from planning through reporting. Do not, I repeat, do not submit a timeline that includes nothing but your main events. There are many tasks involved in organizing a project. Your timeline should start with the very first thing you think you need to do as soon as you receive approval of your grant project, all the way through the date you'll submit your final report, which, by the way, is due 2 weeks after your project's milestone event. The timeline should also include the project team member that is responsible for each task, the deadline by which you will complete each task, and the names of the organizations or individuals who are providing services, locations where activities will be held, and you'll also need to critically evaluate your timeline for feasibility. Have you factored in enough time for planning, making reservations, bookings, etc.? Have you considered timing conflicts, such as holidays, school exams, or periods where there's often bad weather in your country? You will also submit a social media plan. The Alumni Grants program would not be possible without the support of our funders, the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. To continue receiving funding for this program, it is essential we demonstrate the impact and reach. There is no better way to show what great projects the grants program supports and to reach a wider audience than through social media. A social media plan is a required component of your application, and this is separate from your overall project timeline. Include in your plan what you will post and when. You should document milestones in all phases of your project, including planning, implementation, and analysis. Also consider on what social media platforms you will post. Make sure your posts are not made only in a private group. Now we're moving on to some of the documents that you will upload to help support your proposal. Letters of support from project partners, either organizations or entities, or individual professionals who are donating their time, either in full or in part, strengthen your proposal. Letters of support must be included for any cost share you are claiming in your budget. Letters should be on official letterhead, unless of course they are from an individual contributor. They should have the organization or the professional's contact information. They should be provided in English. If the original letter is in another language than English, we honor alumni translations, but both the original and translated versions of the letter must be submitted. The letter should also describe the support being offered and include the monetary value of that support in US dollars. You will also need to upload the resumes or CVs for yourself, key project team members, and any individual to whom you propose to pay for services. An important note on paying for services. This is covered more extensively in the budgeting video, but please note we encourage alumni to be creative in their pursuit of no-fee services for grant projects. The Alumni Grants program cannot fund extensive professional fees for trainers, speakers, photographers, videographers, or other professional services. We encourage you to rely on your team's expertise, your alumni network, or seeking out individuals who want to be part of your project and donate their time. A reasonable honorarium may be considered. And note that if you are requesting funds to pay an honorarium to any individual, their resumes or CVs must be provided. If this person does not have a resume, please upload a detailed statement of their experience and qualifications. And note also that under no circumstances can an alum be paid for services. Risk management plans. For a stronger, more competitive grant application, it is highly recommended that a well-developed risk management plan is submitted with your application. A risk management plan is a document project organizers create to show that they have considered and planned for unforeseen risks, estimated the impacts of such challenges to the project, and have predefined their responses to issues. The minimum requirements that should be in your risk management plan are plans for dealing with risks, impacts, and emergency response, such as evacuation procedures or emergency escape plans, and methods for accounting for all participants in an emergency. You should identify personnel, emergency services, and project team member responsibilities in the event of an emergency. This includes designated contacts and phone numbers in the event of a health emergency, a staffing plan within your team in case of a program emergency, and the contact numbers for emergency services. You should also know the venue-specific information, including the address, location, and/or specific directions to the venue in the event you need to direct emergency services to your location. You should also know the phone number for the venue contact in case of emergency. There are also other project risks to consider. The previous slide discussed emergencies in the truest sense of the word, such as a fire or a participant falling and breaking their leg. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But undertaking a big project comes with other potential risks and feasibility issues that you need to consider before proposing a project. The points discussed here are only a few of many considerations. This is not an extensive list. Before you set out to embark on a project, you've got to ask yourself what potential challenges, obstacles, or even dangers could your project face. One such example is with sensitive topics and/or vulnerable groups. Is there so much stigma around an issue in your community that will be extremely challenging to recruit participants and support? One example I can think of is a project based around domestic violence. If you want to empower women in your community who are being abused, how will you get those women to come and participate in your project? And is it safe for them to do so? Is there a chance of danger to participants because they take part in your project? Going back to the domestic violence example I just gave, will these women be in more danger for engaging in such a project? And is your team qualified to handle the issue you intend to address? If you wish to hold a project for people who are dealing with mental health issues, for example, is your team qualified to support them? Will you have qualified personnel at hand to ensure that these participants are properly supported? Projects with minors. What's your plan for adequate staffing and monitoring of minor participants? I would also like to note that we rarely approve projects involving overnight stays with minor participants. Photos and social media. Are your participants comfortable with their photo being used on social media? If not, do not submit their photo in any project reports. Also, do you plan to have participants sign a photo release? Hint, hint, you should. And accessibility. Do your project plans include accommodations and accessibility considerations for persons with disabilities? Now for some general writing tips. A grant proposal should be written in a formal tone and a professional style. Don't use slang. Imagine you're writing for a class or for a newspaper. To the best of your ability, use correct spelling, grammar, capitalization, and punctuation. We understand that English is not the first language of most of our alumni, but doing the best you can makes your writing and your ideas more clear. You should do your best to make sure your writing is well organized. Use clear and simple language. Do not use flowery language and big words. You are not writing poetry or trying to impress your professor. Be sure your writing is detailed and descriptive, and use the active voice. For example, don't say, participants will be recruited from local schools. Instead, use the active voice to say, the project team will recruit participants from local schools. Assume proposal evaluators know nothing about your project theme or local community. Be sure to explain and spell out all acronyms and avoid using insider language. Pro tip number 4. Ask someone that you trust and who knows nothing about your project to do a final review of your proposal. This should be someone whose judgment and critical thinking skills you trust. This helps to ensure your ideas are clear, consistent, and well presented. This person should be looking for any missing information that is critical for the evaluation team to understand your proposal. All right, question time. If you have any questions, we are here to help.